Today, we are going to dive into one of history's most notorious and chilling unsolved cases. This case has left people with so many questions and confusions, with every clue leading to a dead end. This is the legend of Jack the Ripper. Marianne Nichols will be kicked out of a lodging because of not being able to afford the accommodation fees, will roam the streets of Whitechapel in the middle of the night looking for means of affording some money for the lodging, not knowing that she will be the first victim of a ruthless serial killer. She will later be found dead on Bucks Row in Whitechapel, London. Our story begins in the streets of Whitechapel, London in the late 1880s. This was a time of great social and economic disparity, with overcrowded slums and rampant poverty. It was in this grim backdrop that Jack the Ripper's, a serial killer, reign of terror unfolded. Jack the Ripper is believed to have murdered at least 5 women, known as the Canonical Five. The victims were as follows. The first victim was Marianne Nichols. She is believed to have been looking for money to pay for her accommodation at the lodging, allegedly through prostitution, and was later met by her cold fate. Her throat was cut and abdomen ripped by a large, jagged wound. The second victim to be found was Annie Chapman, who on 8th 1888 was found dead, with her body lying on the ground near the doorway to the backyard, her throat deeply cut, with her head 6 inches from the steps of the property. The third victim to be found was Elizabeth Stride. Unlike the other canonical Ripper victims, Stride was not mutilated following her murder. However, her throat was slashed, leading to most researchers to consider her the third of the Ripper's 5 canonical victims. Her murder occurred less than an hour before the killing of the Ripper's 4th victim, Catherine Eddowes, in Whitechapel, London. During the investigation, the police received numerous letters supposedly from the killer. The most infamous of these are the Dear Boss letter, the Saucy Jack postcard, and the chilling and thrilling From Hell letter. The Dear Boss letter read as, and I quote, "Dear Boss, I keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me just yet. I have laughed when they look so clever and talk about being on the right track. That joke about leather apron gave me real fits. I am down on hose, and I shan't quit ripping them till I do get buckled. Grand work the last job was. I gave the lady no time to squeal. How can they catch me now? I love my work and want to start again. You will soon hear of me with my funny little games. I saved some of the proper red stuff in a ginger beer bottle over the last job to write with, but it went thick like glue and I can't use it. Red ink is fit enough, I hope. Ha ha. The next job I do, I shall clip the lady's ears off and send to the police officers just for jolly, won't you? Keep this letter back till I do a bit more work. Then give it out straight. My knife's so nice and sharp, I want to get to work right away if I get a chance. Good luck. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper." End of quote. The other letter received is the Saucy Jack postcard. It read, and I quote, "I was not coding dear old boss when I gave you the tip. You will hear about Saucy Jack's work tomorrow. Double event this time. Number 1 squealed a bit, couldn't finish straight off. Had not got time to get ears off for police. Thanks for keeping last letter back till I got to work again. Jack the Ripper." End of quote. The most disturbing letter of all was the letter written from hell. This letter is also distinct in that not only is the handwriting unique, but the writer also left it unsigned. The From Hell letter also appears to be penned by someone with even less literary powers than those responsible for the Dear Boss letter and Saucy Jack. What makes it particularly chilling is how it arrived inside a small box, accompanied by half of a human kidney. The letter signed From Hell. It read, and I quote, "From hell, Mr. Lusk, Sir, I send you half the kidney I took from one woman preserved it for you to the piece I fried and ate it was very nice. I may send you the bloody knife that took it out if you only wait a while longer. Signed, Catch me when you can, Mr. Lusk." End of quote. The Dear Boss letter along with the Saucy Jack postcard were published by Metropolitan Police and handed out to citizens in hopes that someone would be able to identify the handwriting, yet nothing came out of it. Newspapers also reprinted the messages, creating a worldwide media frenzy and increasing the celebrity of Jack the Ripper. While not well publicized, police officials later stated that they believed the Dear Boss letter and Saucy Jack postcard to be the work of a local journalist by the name of Tom Bullen. Years later, in 1931, a journalist named Fred Best reportedly confessed to writing the Dear Boss letter and Saucy Jack postcard in an attempt to keep the business alive. It is not known if his claims were genuine, but it is probable these letters, whether real or hoaxes, added fuel to the media frenzy and deepened the mystery. But despite these clues, the true identity of Jack the Ripper remained hidden. Over the years, many suspects have been proposed. Some of the most notable include Montage John Druitt, a barrister who took his own life shortly after the last murder. He was found floating in the Thames near Chiswick on that 31st December 1888. Some modern authors suggest that Druitt may have been dismissed because of being homosexual and that this could have driven him to commit suicide. However, both his mother and his grandmother suffered mental health problems, and it is possible that he was dismissed because of an underlying hereditary psychiatric illness. He was said to be sexually insane. He was also suspected of being the Ripper by members of his family. On September 1st, the day after the first canonical murder, Druitt was in a Dorset playing cricket, and most experts now believe that the killer was local to Whitechapel, whereas Druitt lived miles away on the other side of Thames in Kent. The other suspect was Aaron Kosminski, a Polish immigrant and a resident in Whitechapel. Anderson wrote, "The only person who had ever had a good view of the murderer unhesitatingly identified the suspect the instant he was confronted with him. He also claimed that the suspect fit their description, a sexual maniac of a virulent type, that he was living in the immediate vicinity of the scenes of the murders, and that, if he was not living immediately alone, his people knew of his guilt and refused to give him up to justice. House to house search was conducted for the case of every man in the district whose circumstances were such that he could go and come and get rid of his bloodstains in secret. He further stated the following conclusions. He, that's Jack the Ripper, and his people were certain low-class Polish Jews, but since the person who identified him was also a Polish Jew, and people of that class in the East End will not give up one of their number to gentle justice. The suspect was never prosecuted. Anderson was firmly convinced of the suspect's guilt, also writing within the Whitechapel Murders section of his memoirs that undiscovered murders are rare in London and that the Jack the Ripper crimes are not within that category. Some authors are skeptical of this while others use it in their theories. Even Prince Albert Victor, the grandson of Queen Victoria, has been the subject of conspiracy theories. The theory was brought to public attention in 1970 when an article by Thomas Sowell was published in The Criminologist that revealed his suspicion that Prince Albert Victor had committed the murders after being driven mad by syphilis. This was widely dismissed as Prince Albert Victor had strong alibis for the murders, and it is unlikely that he suffered from syphilis. As we walk through this crime story, we can't help but wonder about the shadowy figure who once haunted them. Jack the Ripper may never be unmasked, but his legacy endures, a dark chapter in the history of crime.